Sit down.
I will double what he said about Gene. To any tournament I went to, plane ride, this guy, when he was Waldo, everywhere.
I gotta find those gems. So. All right, we'll open up the floor to questions. Just raise your hand and we'll start from there.
How long does the recruiting process take for you to recruit one girl? How long?
Depends how good. It might be 30 seconds. It might be a year and a half. But I know that sounds bad. But you know, a lot of it. You know, I know this is going to sound really weird, but you guys all know Microsoft Excel, right? Imagine having an Excel spreadsheet of about 6 years out with all of our scholarship money, every player, how much they were getting, and how much we had left from now, 2015, probably all the way out to 2021, 22. And you have to look at that and you have to think, this is what we're going to need in 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. You know, right now, your bigger schools across the country are thinking about 2020s. And they're thinking, we're going to need a pitcher in 18 and 19. Okay, we don't need one in 20. We're going to need one in 21. I know that sounds really weird, but that's how they look at it. You're kind of like the general manager of a baseball team. You think the Royals don't have plans 10 years down the road? They do. Same with your any softball team. It just is further back at the Division I level. And again, further back at the higher levels than at the lower levels, because at the higher levels, the competition for those kids is so intense that you have to get in really early. So, I mean, when I was at KU, we never went to 14 and under nationals. I went to a couple 14 and under tournaments just to watch. I mean, I knew exactly who I was watching. It wasn't just walk up to a field. But, you know, 8th grade, 9th grade years, kind of when, you know, you start getting some serious looks. And, again, playing for good organizations is great at that point because, again, we don't have time. You know, when I was at KU, there were 10 or 12 programs that we would watch their 14 and under and 16 and unders. We would get calls from their coaches, come work a camp for us, come work one of our camps, come work one of our clinics. Hey, you guys are having a camp. We're gonna get. I got a 8th or 9th grader that needs to come. You guys need to see. We're gonna get him to your camp. Okay, cool. You know, if Rob would have ever called us up and said, and he did, you really need to come see this kid, we would go watch that kid, regardless of age, whatever. And then honestly, Rob would do that about kids on other teams too. He'd say, hey, this kid for another team is really good, you need to watch him. So, you know, just having those contacts helps the recruiting process get started earlier for some kids. You know, pretty much by your freshman, sophomore year, if you're not on their radar, it's tough to get on it. I know that sounds really bad, but it's not impossible. It happens. I walked up to a field and a kid who was a senior and went, we need to get that kid. And we ended up signing him because they just slipped through the cracks. It happens. Slipping through the cracks is becoming a little less common now with YouTube, with, you know, just the recruiting process in the past 5 years has just exploded. And so those diamonds in the rough are, it's harder to sneak up on the bigger schools because they pretty much know about almost everyone. I don't know if you've noticed that too, but it's hard to slip through those cracks. But
somebody's already told them about them, or they already know it in most cases.
Yeah.
You know, and to kind of pigtail off that, Gene has a great relationship with a lot of the Division I coaches in the area too, and they will come to him because Gene's honest with them. Yes, would Gene love to have all these kids that are Division I players that slip through the cracks come to Central Methodist? Absolutely. But he's also honest with the coach. He say, Gene, you've seen this kid. What do you think? And Gene gives him an honest assessment. You know, so coaches talk, and so the networking system is very vast in college recruiting. Not just, you know, Adam recruiting for KU. Adam will talk to other coaches. He'll talk to, you know, when he was there, he had former coaches that are coaching in NAIA, and he would talk to them, and they would, you know, they give him heads up on players that, you know, quite honestly, they didn't feel like they could get them because they were a Division I level player. So it's a very wide net that they cast out. And one last thing about Jay's question, and then what Adam said, yeah, they are looking at 2020s, 2021s now in the major conferences. But don't let that discourage you as far as what you want to accomplish recruiting-wise, because we have 2 players on the team right now that are 2016s that just verbal to major conference schools, that it can still happen. So, you know, one's going to Kansas, one's going to Missouri, and they were late in the process. Doesn't mean they didn't work, just things didn't work the way they wanted them to work as the process went forward. So, yes, I would say the model has changed in general. They're looking at 2019, 20, 21s right now. And every year the clock is ticking. So every year it goes by that you add another year onto that, and then the next thing you know, we're recruiting 2025s. And time flies by. So, but understand that there's always going to, if you work hard enough and you're with the right organization, the right program, you're going to get an opportunity. It's just making sure that you seize that opportunity. But start now, especially the 14s, start now getting to these camps, getting seen. Otherwise, you'll wind up late, and most of these coaches have a pretty good idea of who they like in those 8th and 9th grade classes already.
And I'm sorry, I really didn't even answer your question. That was my politician answer, where I can answer it without actually answering it. But the recruiting process, it basically starts with you communicating with the coach, or your coach communicating with the coach, then finding out who you are, getting on their radar screen, go to watch you play, or you come to camp, or so. Usually it starts with us, a coach watching you somewhere at a game. Then if it's local, hey, Coach Wade, we're having lessons or camp. You need to get her over there. We've had those conversations many times. Coming to a camp or a clinic, getting to know the coaches, getting to work with them. If it's a school way far away, you can't get to a camp, but they like you a lot, it leads to an unofficial visit, usually, because, generally happens in your freshman, sophomore year, because, officials can't. Senior year still, I think, is the rule on that. So most of the kids are already already signed by then, or verbal before their official visits. So those aren't really used as recruiting tools anymore. Unfortunately, the way the rules are now, your parents have to foot the bill for those unofficial visits. We always generally had a thing, and as a parent in the recruiting process, it'd be hard for me to fly across the country if I wasn't getting some kind of offer. So if you're being offered to go to an unofficial visit somewhere, that's where Coach Wade can step in and say, hey, it's going to cost them a couple $1,000 to fly to California or fly to Florida. Is this really going to be worth their time? And we would always be honest with people of, we maybe wouldn't say how much, but we're like, they need to get up here. And the coaches would understand because they know us well enough to be like, you guys need to spend the money and get up there. It's going to be really worth your while. So, leads to an unofficial visit where you go up, see the campus, stay with the girls. Sometimes they'll try to loop in a camp or clinic while you're there, which is always a good deal. Football game, basketball game, get to see the campus. If you get an offer, that's great. If it's a local school, maybe they're bringing you just to, kind of see if you like things where it doesn't really cost that much. Get to go to a KU basketball game, maybe football game or whatever, which is a nice perk of living close to a couple really good schools. You can get some tickets for you and your parents. But, then after all that happens, then generally an offer comes, sometime after that. So I hope that answers your timeline. It's like they just walk up to a field and offer you. I mean, that does happen. Not very often, but it does happen.
Gene, got anything to add?
Yeah, I do. KU football would be.
That'd be a negative.
Okay.
I always hated it when we had recruits for football games because that meant I actually had to go.
We're asking the first
And about
question.
halftime, we're like, oh, and then that's ready to leave.
We're breaking the ice.
Hey, nice job.
Here's something just a little different than what he said. I mean, we look. I mean, I've got it. Here's my list. I got all of these sheets, about 60 people to a sheet. I write girls down I see. I write notes about them. I've got 20/20s on here. Kids that I've seen that have talent that I think, okay, this is somebody to watch. I will not approach them. I'll ask them for info or write their info down, and I'll try to see. I'll say, hey, send me your schedule. I'll try to go. But I generally focus on under 18, under 16 teams for the most part. Going back to what Adam said, I go to Colorado every year when they have the Louisville tournament, Boulder and all that, and somebody called me and wanted me to come up to Greeley, which is where they have the 14s. So I go to Greeley and I walk into this tournament up there. University of Arkansas head coach, LSU head coach, Michigan head coach, Missouri assistant coach. There must have been 15 of them up there. There's 14, and there's only 3 fields. So they're all walking around. They're not at the 16, they're not at the 18 tournament. Most of their kids that are committed are over at Boulder, playing at Boulder or Louisville. So a lot of talent out there, and we pretty much stick with fireworks and sparkler and stuff like that, which is where we know we can get girls that come to us. Go back, I just want to take it from a different angle though. I think one of the biggest things about recruiting is parents being honest about their kids' talent and considering the financial cost of your kid going D1. My kid's D1, but they got books, My kid's D1, and they got Rube. I mean, there's all kinds of ways to break those equivalencies out into scholarships. They can do that. Maybe they're going to sit on the bench for 2 or 3 years, get to pinch run. I've seen a lot of kids come out of Kansas City, go to different schools, and I mean, we picked one of them up a couple of years ago. She hardly got to play. She came down and played with us, and we won 2 conference championships with her. There are other girls I see that go and play or get on the team for a couple of years, and they end up not playing, they transfer, or they quit, and they get their degree and stuff like that. So really, really be honest about your talent level. Where are you going to go on and play? All of you probably start every game for your high school. If you play high school, you probably play tons of innings for your summer team. Oh, you got a question?
No, you finish and then.
And then you come to college, and even at us, I mean, it's tough for a freshman to walk on and play all the time. We've had it, we will have it, but you're playing behind, you're going to schools with girls that are all state, all players of the year at their state, and stuff like that. Really consider where you're going to go and have fun and play. I would also say try to visit some different schools. A 30,000 size university is not right for everybody. It's not, you know, so you recruit too, you know, from the standpoint of what schools has your degrees, what schools would you feel comfortable with, you know? So that's the only thing I'd say is it's kind of both sides of it. Somebody sees you and they want you, you know, they're probably, I don't know, what's the average time you give them to make up their mind?
You know, we were never big on timetables. I mean, I had a hard time telling a 9th grader, hey, you got a week. I know some schools do, and maybe that's changed since I've been out of there, but, you know, it was tough for me to do that. I mean, this is a huge decision for you guys, and I know we make it sound big, but it is big. And, you know, we would just have discussions with the parents and the kids and the coaches of what's your timetable. If it was, I want to decide by January, February, okay, no problem. January, February comes, and all of a sudden you want to visit 3 or 4 other schools. Well, we're going to talk then because you had a lot of time to get to those other schools. You went and visited, and you know we always wanted all the information. If we were recruiting one of Rob's kids and she was looking at Missouri or Iowa State, yeah, she visited there. That never hurt our feelings. I mean, you want to be recruiting against the best if you're going to get the best. So, but if all of a sudden it was after that, well, she wants to go visit all these other schools, well, then obviously she didn't like something in those 3 schools and isn't as close to committing, and then we would talk about at some point we have to pull the offer because we have to get a kid. So it's kind of a mutual decision between the players and the coaches of, you know, I don't know of many places that would look at a freshman and say you have to, you can't just to take this offer. You know, some people may do it, but I don't think that's someplace you want to play.
Just one last thing.
I may be very idealistic on that, but
Probably all of you have gone to a D1 game. There are lots of D2 schools around here and lots of JUCOs and lots of NAIAs. When you think about the recruiting process, go see how they play. Go see what their talent is like. So at least, you know what you're getting into, what you can do. Go ahead, man.
When you said, you know, KU's going to offer books, can you elaborate on that? Okay, what's the tuition? What is the book? What's the parent going to pay at your school and then at Gene's school?
books at the Division I level has been, is it 5% now or something?
Yeah,
like
something
that?
like
And it's all changed. The Division I landscape is, I mean, I've only been out for like 9 months and it's completely changed. So it's going to be changing moving forward, especially in your Power 5 conferences. So anything I might be telling you might be completely wrong, but this is just what it was when I left.
What were you told? Shelley, what were you told?
For
For
MU?
for the lowest percentage, it goes all the way down to 1% now.
Yeah, is books 1% or 5%?
Well, they can't sign a letter of national intent without a scholarship offer. So
Yeah, and I think
it's
the
1%. I think
1%.
Yeah.
What books means is you get your books paid for.
Which could be $1,000 a year.
It's a lot of money.
It could be. It's still good money, but you're also going to be paying a lot too. You know, as far as what is tuition, what is room and board, that is different at every school. I would suggest doing a lot of research. I am not going to name the schools publicly, but there are schools that would offer kids full rides. Well, that's full ride if you take 12 hours. You guys don't understand this, but your parents do. You want to take 15 a semester, you're paying the rest. And you don't know that Till all of a sudden you go to sign your scholarship, it's only 80.